Alice has gotten away from me. If I didn't know any better, I would say that this project was cursed from the beginning. Good afternoon, friends. I just wanted, before I start today's video, to show you the newest addition to my sewing supplies. So this is what I now call my sewing tower, which now contains most of the supplies I need for a daily basis. Before, I had that tackle box, a separate sewing box, and a purse that I kept everything in, which I no longer need because it is all now in this tower. So we're going to go through drawer by drawer, and I'm going to show you how I've organized. Here in this little container are all my clips, because they don't fit in any of the drawers. And then down here in the first drawer are all of my daily needs. So I have my braces, my pincushion, my sewing chalk. I don't know what that is. I have my tape measure. This is for calluses because I get a lot of calluses on my fingers. My thread snipper scissors. This is what I usually reach for most often. This is a magnetic case that holds all my needles, are all stored in here for their protection and my own. Safety pins and a few other things. Here's my needle threader. Drawer 2 are all the sharp objects. So plenty of scissors. I have my electronic fabric shears. This is my sewing awl, which I have jammed into this eraser for protection reasons. So my seam ripper scalpel, you've seen me use this plenty of times. It's very sharp. And then drawer 3 is all my thread. Before, I used to keep most of this in a cardboard box, and now everything fits into one drawer. I have all forms of colors. I have cotton thread, polyester thread, upholstery thread, so everything fits into one drawer now. I'm very happy about that. And then these bottom 3 drawers I don't use very often. They're the less accessible drawers. So down here I have closures, drawstrings, lots of drawstrings, grommets, snaps, elastic, just anything that helps with the finishing of the garment. They're all in here. Next drawer down, I can't even open right now. It's stuck. Oh, there we go. So here are a lot of trimmings. Lace, trim. Actually just cut off a piece of this for a project. I have more. Actually, this should go in the drawer up. This is also drawstring, so that should be in here. I have a lot of bias tape, a lot of lace trimming. This is very special trimming. I'm still waiting for the perfect project. I know I shouldn't do that, but I'm almost afraid to cut into this. It's so pretty. These are kind of older ropes that I received from different people. I cut the gold one off of a cape and replaced that with a clasp. So don't use this drawer very often unless I specifically need lace or bias tape for something. The least used things. Buttons, mostly. Some dye that I won't ever use now. But yeah, most of this is my button collection. I I built up this collection mostly for my job at the dry cleaners. You never know when a button goes missing and when you need to replace it. But after I left, I had paid for these buttons, so I took them with me. Yeah, all kinds of buttons in here. Very impressive collection. I don't use this drawer a lot simply because of the bad memories attached to it, but buttons are important sometimes. So that's my sewing tower. I found it at a thrift store for $25, and it's completely revolutionized how I organize my sewing kit. Okay, so Alice has gotten away from me. If I didn't know any better, I would say that this project was cursed from the beginning, but I'm not gonna let that stop me, and somehow, some way, I did get it finished. But now, what I need to do is explain just how far off it got from the original plan, because it certainly did get away from me. So I'm going to explain the patterns, what I used, what I didn't use, and where it goes from there. And then I will show you how I managed to pattern this. So let's get started with that. If you recall, 10 months ago when I introduced the project for the first time at Christmas, this would look a little familiar to you. It's the original base of the dress that I was planning, and you can see I still have it written down here, and that this was going to be my choice. But I scrapped this completely. It's just gone. What I didn't realize at the time, that the straps on this dress are incompatible with a basic armhole that you would add a sleeve to. It's just kind of its own thing. It's got its own design, and there was no way that was going to work. So, gone. Apron pattern. You would think this was simple enough, and I chose the only choice in this pattern that looked even remotely feminine, but still not feminine enough. What I did here was actually make an apron with this pattern, and in the end I thought it was okay, but it wasn't where I wanted it, so I scrapped that as well. Gone. This you'll see in the Alice Gone Wrong video, where I thought maybe any kind of dress with a poofy sleeve to it, and you'd be surprised how few of those are out there, and it was very hard to find in the first place. But as you recall, I didn't have enough fabric for this after all. I was supposed to have had 6 yards of blue fabric, and that's what I introduced, but later when we were actually measuring that out, turned out to be only 4. So this was impossible, even if I had tried it. So, gone. So that brings us back to this pattern. I was going to use this sleeve on the dress, and it was still, after all my research, after all my trying, it was the only thing I had left to try for a poof sleeve dress. So I kept the pattern piece. After I lost it and then found it again, I kept it close and made sure I didn't lose it again, and this made its way into the final design of the dress. But I still needed a bodice to attach it to, so I went shopping and found this. It's a basic tank top dress, it has this nice poof sleeve, and one would think that would translate very well into Alice. But what I did was I only used the top part, this the structured bodice at the top, and it was where the armhole is actually a real armhole that I could attach a sleeve to. So this is the bodice I used. So this bodice, this sleeve, but what about the skirt? I thought about using this, but when I opened the pattern, it turned out to be just one straight block. And I'm not a fan of that. So you can see here, it's just gathered here, where it's just a straight skirt, and it's gathered at the waist, and it doesn't have great poof. I know the drawing here seems to suggest otherwise, but that's the difference between a drawing design and a practical design. They never look the same. So, would I have liked for this look to be the final look? Yes, but that turned out not to be the case. So what I did there was I just measured out a circle skirt. No pattern needed. I just made the measurements, did the math, the very famous circle skirt math, and I used what was left of the blue fabric, and I just made it as long as the remainder would allow. And that's the skirt. So I have 3 separate patterns just to make this one dress. Why? Because an Alice dress pattern doesn't exist. Believe me, I've looked. And if anyone knows of one that exists that doesn't cost $50, please let me know. Although it is a little too late now because the dress is made. So what we're going to do for this video is we're going to show you the process of me patterning out not just the dress, but the new apron. So the new apron, it did take a lot of really creative engineering, but I figured it out, and the process there was fun and interesting, and I'm not even sure how I figured it out. I really don't. But I did it, and you're gonna see. So the plan now is to scrap the apron pattern entirely, because this is really meant for more of a modern apron anyway. What we're going to do instead of following an actual apron pattern is go back to the dress pattern, or at least the part of the pattern that fit the bodice. And we're just going to make it match perfectly with the bodice of the dress. So I have the front panel and the back panel is what I'm using, so the apron itself will fit the dress perfectly. Here's bodice back, and the bodice front will fit the front part of it, bodice front. So we're attaching it right at the shoulders, the way that the original pattern instructions call for, and it will have the front part and the back part together. Make my apron look way more accurate to the character than what my first attempt at this apron. So we're scrapping this apron, and I need to have the new apron ready by Halloween. So I guess we'll just see what happens. So I'm gonna grab the sheet set and lay out the pattern and get started on sewing that together.
Welcome to the channel, like and subscribe. Isn't that what YouTube wants us to say? Our Lords and Master at Google? Yeah,